Welcome back to Stream of Consciousness with Dan. Today's guest is Chef Gregory Leon, the heart and vision behind Amalinda in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Though born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, he grew up in Venezuela. Gregory's journey has carried him from the kitchens of San Francisco to the Iberian flavors of Spain and Portugal, but ultimately back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he's built one of the city's most celebrated restaurants. Gregory is more than a chef. He's a three-time James Beard Award nominee, a fierce advocate for LGBTQ+ and BIPOC, voices of hospitality, and a storyteller who believes that sharing a meal is the fastest way to build community. In this conversation, we'll honor his roots, his resilience, and his vision for food as a vessel of belonging. And because every great story deserves a little play, we'll also put Gregory's creativity to the test with a round of Stump the Chef. So settle in. This is a journey of heritage, advocacy, and joy with Chef Gregory Leon. All right, we are live with Stream of Consciousness with celebrated chef Gregory Leon. How are you doing today, Gregory?
I'm doing great. Celebrated. I like that. That's a nice intro. Thank you. I'm good. I'm good. I'm just inside the apartment trying to stay warm today.
It's a chilly one here as well in Omaha. Um, so yeah, so three-time James Beard nominee Gregory Leon. So
Four
let's start
times.
at four times. Did
Four
I miss?
times.
Oh, geez, I'm already am off to a bad start.
No, 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 no. So it's funny because people always forget that last one. I don't know why. Like you're not the only one who does that. So 2022 and 2023 was for Best Chef Midwest, and 2024 and 2025 was Outstanding Chef, which is kind of like their national category. So
Well, I'll try to keep my facts straight, but let's start
it's
at the
all good.
beginning. Let's
Sure.
start at the beginning. Born in Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Correct.
and just kind of walk me through your childhood because I feel like it's a pretty unique one.
It is. So, my father's Venezuelan. He came to the US in the mid to late 60s to go to school, learn English. My mother was born here in the US. When she was a child, somehow my grandparents ended up in Oklahoma. I have the distinction in my family of being the first person to be born in Oklahoma. Thanks, mom and dad. Um, and I was born in 1970. My dad graduated from college in 75, and they had already had a discussion about I want to go back to Venezuela and live close to my family for a few years. So in 1975, we moved to Venezuela and we were there till 1989. So we were there before Venezuela turned into the dumpster fire that it is today. So
Oh,
we really got
gotcha.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, we really got to see Venezuela at its best. In 1989, I think both my parents were like, well, maybe it's time to move back to the US. So we moved back to Oklahoma just because that's where my mom's parents were. And I was there from 1989 till 1994. I as a child, you don't really realize, when you're growing up in different places, how lucky
Mhm.
you are. And it took me becoming an adult to really um, acknowledging that. I was very lucky that I grew up in Venezuela. I was exposed to so many different things, not just food, but culture and people from other countries, and food from other countries. We from 1976, I think, until probably like 1979, maybe. My dad worked for an oil company, and it was in 1975, Venezuela nationalized the oil business, so created all these national oil companies. My father went to go work for one of these companies, and they opened an office in this city called Puerto Ordaz, which was a fairly new city. And so the company was like, "We've got an apartment for you. They're about to finish it, but we really need you to go and get this office going." So they're like, we're going to put you up at the Intercontinental in Puerto Ordaz. Couple months ended up being 2.5 years that we lived in a
Geez.
hotel. I mean, it was a nice hotel, Intercontinental, nice hotels. So as a kid, that was great. I'm sure it drove my parents crazy. But when we lived there, there was a lot of construction projects going on in Venezuela. They were building a huge dam at the time. So there were people from all over the world staying in this hotel. And so my parents ended up becoming friends with people from all over the world. And so it was a very cool and interesting childhood.
It's really neat. Like I just thought your story is so incredible. Did you have any dishes growing up that maybe your parents made or even just in Venezuela itself that you were like, oh my gosh, I am falling in love with food?
I can't think of one specific moment where it's like, oh my God, I love this. This is what I want to do for a living. I have very distinct childhood memories when it comes to food. One of them was, and I feel like maybe this was the one that planted the seed for my love for the food of the Iberian Peninsula. Is my parents had some friends who were Spanish. And I remember we went over to their house once and it was like mom, dad, the kid, and then they had grandma who lived there with them. And we went over there one night for dinner, and I remember eating tortilla española, which is their egg and egg potato. Yeah.
Omelet.
Yeah, it's really thick. And moms or whoever makes it in the morning, it sits on the counter. It's like their snack. They eat it all day. You go to a bar to get a drink, you might get a piece of it. So I remember trying that and just being, wow, this is delicious. Like this is like so good. It's eggs, potatoes, onions. That's all it is. But then also being like, why are we eating omelets in the afternoon or the evening? And why are we eating it at room temperature? So I remember eating that. And then I remember eating the quintessential Spanish blue cheese called the name is gonna escape me now. I knew this was gonna happen. It'll come to me here in a second. So it's a blue cheese that they have. It's made with three different kinds of milk: sheep's, goat, and cow. Usually
The
wrapped in
queso
grapefruit.
azul.
Yeah, but it's got a specific name. It'll come to me here in a second. And it's very pungent. Like you have to really like blue cheese to eat this. And I remember eating it and just being like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Like this is so good." So maybe that was the point where like the little seed of my love towards Iberian cuisine started. We ate a lot of different things in Venezuela. Depending on what part of the country you live in, the cuisine changes. So if you're on the coast, obviously it's very seafood
Mhm.
heavy. And then as you get into the interior of the country, then it moves more to like pork and beef. My dad, we used to go to the beach on the weekends every weekend. That was like what my parents like to do. And, I have these memories of my dad coming out of the water with sea urchins and them just like cracking them open and eating them right there. Or these little boats coming up. And so these little kids would come out, jump out of the boat with these giant baskets full of fresh oysters and they would
Oh,
just sit there.
yum.
They would just sit there and they would shuck the oysters, a little lemon juice, and then they would count the shells to see how many oysters you had. So not a lot of kids get to do that. So I'm very grateful, and I don't think my parents realized what a great exposure they were giving us. Me and my brothers. I think that's how they live there. That's how people live there. Um, but they did a lot to to bring that love of food in me alive, and I'm very grateful for that.
That is incredible. That's so cool. So let's move on to kind of how you got to your San Francisco years. So kind of bridge the gap between, your childhood and adulthood. How did you get to San Francisco?
So in 1989, as I said, we moved back to the US, and my dad, very old school, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you go to college. And I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing that really interests me. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And just go to school, get a business degree. So I went to junior college for 3 semesters, did great, and then went off to the University of Oklahoma and just pretty much drank for 2 semesters straight. Because what I was studying was just not something that interested me. I just did not like it. And it's still at this point, I hadn't realized that you could have a career with food. Um,
Mhm.
so I went to the University of Oklahoma. I got put on academic probation because my grades were just horrible. And so just kind of floundered for about 2 years. I would say I got kicked out of school in 1992. So didn't quite know what I wanted to do. Got a job at a kitchen supply store, which I thought was pretty cool. And I had always had an interest in food. I would grab my mother's cookbooks, take them into my bedroom and read them. In Venezuela, cooking is a woman's job. And again,
Mhm.
we're talking pre-Food Network, pre-celebrity chefs. We're talking about pre-cell phones and pre-internet. Like I'm pretty old. And so we, I just kind of floundered. And then I was one day just kind of wasting time watching TV, and I was watching this show on the Discovery Channel called Great Chefs of the World. And if anybody's interested in looking at the show, I know that you can find episodes on YouTube. And so it's basically an hour show. It's divided into three segments. You've got one chef doing the starter, one chef doing an entree, and the chef doing a dessert. It was not a cooking show that you were going to watch to learn how to make anything. They didn't give you ratios, they didn't give you instructions. The chef or the person doing the cooking barely interacted with the camera. They would just set up a camera. This person would go ahead and make their dish. And then there would be a voiceover of this very steady woman telling the audience what they were doing. And I remember watching that show and being like, crap, that's what I want to do for a living. Um, I remember telling my dad the same day that I was gay and that I wanted to be a chef, and he was way more upset about me wanting to be a chef than about being gay. Like when I told him I was gay, I was like, "Do you need to talk
Interesting.
about this?" And his response was like, "What is there to talk about? Your mom and I have known for years." And then I said, "Well, I want to be a chef," and what he said was, "What are you going to do? Work at fast food for the rest of your life?" And I don't mean that in a derogatory way towards anybody who works fast food, because any
Right.
job, you know what I mean? That's not how I mean it. But that's what his response, which was very like, just like, it killed me. I realized many years later that his comment was coming from a place of ignorance. He just didn't know any better.
Mm.
Nobody wanted to be a chef, like nobody. And so, I had a friend in Oklahoma, and we kind of like, oh, we're going to start a catering company. And so we catered a couple parties for some friends, not knowing what the hell we were doing. And then I had a friend who had been in San Francisco the summer of 1994. And we went out to eat dinner one night. This was like probably end of November, beginning of December, probably. And he says, if you're really serious about this, you need to get out of here. You need to either go to New York or you need to go to San Francisco. And at the time, those are the two US cities in the United States that everybody knew as a culinary epicenter. I'm
Mm.
sure there were food coming out of many other cities, but it wasn't like now, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I was like, you're crazy. I have like, I don't know, $600 to my name. I don't know anybody in either one of those cities. Well, you're nuts. So I went home that night and started thinking about it. And it's like, why the hell not? So I picked San Francisco because it was December. I figured that if I went to New York and by chance had to sleep in a park, it would be really cold. So I'm like, I'll move to California because all I knew from California was like sunny, beachy California. So I hopped on a bus, didn't tell anybody. My family didn't know what I was doing. Nobody knew. I just hopped on a bus, and 3 days later, I landed in San Francisco. Got out of the bus. It was pouring down rain. It was cold as hell, and I really remember thinking, like, what the hell have I done? But I'm like, I can't go back now. Like, I'm here. You can do that when you're 24. So I landed in San Francisco. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to live. Like, literally, here I am. So I slept in the park a few days, and then things just kind of happened to fall into place. I had very little cooking experience at that point. I had worked, my only restaurant experience was working at Fridays as a waiter. And this is when you had to wear all that crap.
Oh,
Uh,
TGI Fridays?
TGI Fridays.
Oh,
My friend Jamie and I worked there together. But I had zero cooking experience. Like I didn't what little I knew, you could probably fit in one hand, and it's something that I had read in maybe a cookbook. Like really no experience. And I remember walking by this restaurant and just literally thinking, oh, this space looks cool. I'm gonna go in and apply. So I went in, asked if they were looking for people. They said yes. I filled out my application, and it was for they served breakfast. They don't do that anymore. And I want to say I was probably the last breakfast person there. And it was a very simple menu. It had like three items. Um, and they gave me the job. And promptly 90 days later, once the probation period is over, they fired me because I had no idea what I was doing. So I go apply for this job, and then I had already found a place to live. So I go back to where I'm living, and it was a house that this guy had, and he rented rooms. So it was me, him, and then there was another guy named Roger who lived there. And I remember talking to Roger, and I was like, yeah, I got a job today at this restaurant. And he's like, what restaurant is it? And I was like, I don't know. I think it's called Zuni Cafe. And he's like, oh, that's amazing. It's like an institution in San Francisco. People are dying to get a job there. And I was like, oh, crap. So this woman, Marsha McBride was the kitchen manager, and she used to make me cry. I would wake up in the middle of the night in a panic thinking I was late to work or that I had left something in the oven. That had never happened to me before. So I worked for her for 3 months. She fired me. She was very nice about it. She said, you're trying really hard, but you suck. You're just horrible at this. So then when I went and applied for my second job, I did tell the chef I know nothing and I want to learn. So my plan was to work for a couple years and maybe save some money. And at the time, the cooking school in San Francisco was called the California Culinary Academy. It was a very, this was before like Gordon Blue bought it, so it was very well established. And after working for 2 years, it's like I'm learning on the job, so I don't think I'm ever going to go to school. So I was very lucky. Like, a lot of chefs took me under their wing. They gave me jobs. They were patient with me. They taught me stuff. I mean, I had to do a lot of shit work, but
Well, no, I think it's really neat because I mean, it really grounded you. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It absolutely grounded you, and it kind of puts you in your place where you're like, I need to get my act together.
yeah. And I mean, and that
So,
was kind of a fuck up for the first 3 or 4 years that I worked because it's
uh,
like I don't want to work today. I'm just gonna not show up or call in sick or whatever. And so there's probably a lot of jobs that I would have gotten a lot more out of if I would have stuck with them. But you're in your 20s and you just don't really care about whatever. I'm like, I'm going to Lake Tahoe with my friends. I don't care if I lose my job. You know.
no, I absolutely know. I've been in your shoes as well. So, we really talk about, um, as you had mentioned, coming out as gay and working in San Francisco, which is obviously a very progressive city. And just how was it being a gay chef for you, discriminated against, or did it just what it didn't matter? I guess could you
It
just talk
didn't.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm again very lucky that it was San Francisco where I started my career, being such a liberal city. I'd never felt like that was an issue. I mean, there were times when I would go to work at these jobs and I'd be scared shitless, but it wasn't because I was gay and I was afraid they were gonna, harass me because of that. It was because like I would look at the line cooks and I'd be like, oh, these people are fucking badass, and I'm fucking scared at them. Like I don't even. I'm not cool enough to be in the same room with them. So if there was ever that weird tension or anything like that, it was because of that, not because of my sexuality.
That's great. So what advice would you give to maybe, LGBTQ plus chefs today, maybe in less progressive cities? What advice would you give to them?
Oof. So are we talking about somebody who's the chef of a restaurant he's already established, or are we talking about somebody who's starting off?
Maybe starting off. Let's do starting off.
Oh God, what advice? I would say, just stick to your guns and be proud of who you are, and don't take any shit from anybody.
I
That's my
mean,
advice.
that's good advice, and I've kind of come to that conclusion myself. I grew up very conservative, where being, and I'm not gay, but like I'm saying, like
Yeah,
being gay is weird or
yeah,
bad,
yeah,
or you know what I
yeah.
mean?
I
And
mean, I'm
I'm just like, I don't care. Like
yeah,
if you're a good chef or you're good at what
the
you
good
do,
or a good human being.
it,
Who cares?
if you're absolutely, that's great. Okay,
And I
cool.
was very lucky. You know, my father being from Venezuela, I assumed that there'd be an issue. He could care less. My brothers, I mean, all of my family, my mom's family, all of them, everybody's been incredibly accepting. And anybody who I've been in a relationship with who I brought home, they've treated like a member of the family. My ex, who I was with in California for a very long time, he would go visit my grandparents without me, even after we broke up.
Oh,
And
geez, that's cool.
yeah, and my grandmother till the day she died, she's like, "You need to get back together with him. That's the biggest mistake you made was breaking up with him." And I was like, "Thanks, Grandma. Thanks for the dating advice."
Oh, goodness. Well, no, well,
Yeah,
that's really neat to hear because I think we need more of that in our society to just accept people
for
for
who
who
they
they
are.
are. Yep, absolutely.
My
All right, well,
my experience with that, like with those people who tend to yell the loudest against pretty much anything, but especially LGBT or trans, usually they got something to hide,
mhm.
So maybe they should just all come out of the closet. They'd probably be a lot happier.
Well, pardon the interruption, folks, but this episode is brought to you by Big Mama's Kitchen, located in the heart of Omaha, Nebraska. Every dish tells a story, from oven fried chicken to sweet potato pie. It's soul food that feels like home. And just in time for the holidays, Big Mama's Kitchen is offering their Heat and Eat holiday special, all the flavors of tradition ready to share with family. Plus, you'll save big. Get $10 off for every $50 purchase when using the promo code HOLIDAY 2025. That's HOLIDAY 2025. Big Mama's Kitchen, taste the legacy, share the love. Oh, okay. So we'll get back into it. I kind of want to, so we talked about your life in San Francisco. So how did you
Mm.
get back into Milwaukee and start on Melinda?
Excuse me. So, the last couple of years in San Francisco were probably not the best. Struggle with a little bit of it, not a little bit, struggle with a lot of addiction. And then the last 2 years, I couch surfed for a while, just really trying to get my life together and stay clean. And I just felt like the universe just kept kicking me in the ass. And no matter what I did, I just could not get on my feet. And so one night, I was down in San Jose visiting a friend who I was staying with my friend Kimberly. And I was just like, Kimberly, I don't know what to do. Like, I've managed to stay clean for the last 2 years. I'm just really trying. And the universe just keeps smacking me around. So she says, well, maybe you need to try living someplace else. And I was like, I can't live in San Francisco without opening a restaurant here. Then I'm a failure as a chef if I don't do that. And so she looks at me, God, I could see her face as if this was yesterday. And she says, well, maybe the plan was for you to come here for 18 years, learn some stuff, and then you take that someplace else. And I was like, well, why didn't I think of that? And so my plan, I had another dog named Guy, who that dog just basically saved my life. And so him and I decided to travel the US for a few months. So we left San Francisco in January, March, April, May, and just we're going to cities where I knew people were because I wanted to ultimately move someplace that had a food scene. Like I knew the end goal was to open a restaurant. And so I went to spend a couple weeks in Idaho up in the mountains in Sun Valley, just me and the dog and nature. And then I went to Portland and I knew some people living in Portland, some good friends, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, Portland's where I'm going to move to. But I continued to travel, visiting friends, family, went back to South America. So at the end of August, I was with my brothers in Oklahoma, and my friend David Walls texts me and he says, you're traveling, come visit Milwaukee. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And so I looked it up in a map and I'm like, I'm like, it looks okay, but I can't. I'm like, I don't have a lot of money. I've been living off my savings. I'm like, the only reason I've been able to fly as much is because my friend gave me some vouchers on Alaska Airlines. It's not coming to Milwaukee right now. I said, I don't have the money. I can't. Let me get back to Portland. I'll get established, save some money. I'll come visit you next summer. And he's like, no, he's like, I think you need to come down. I was like, well, I can't, David. It's not in the cards. So like 2 days later, he sends me a text and he says, you need to be at the airport Friday morning. Um, this time there's a flight for you. Here's your boarding pass. I got you a ticket with some miles that were about to expire. He's like, I really think you need to come visit Milwaukee. He's like, the food scene is really starting to blow up. And I'm like, fine. So the dog and I came to Milwaukee. We landed on a Friday. Um, First meal was a fish fry because they love their fish fry here.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
God. And then by the following Wednesday, I'm like, okay, I like the city. It's beautiful. I mean, if you've ever been to Milwaukee in August, it's like paradise. Everything's green. You've got the lake. People are outside doing stuff. And I was like, people are really nice here. Okay. Then I'm asking around, like, what's rent like, blah, 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 all that stuff. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could see myself here. But like, no, we're going to Portland. I mean, I had looked at apartments at Portland. And so that following Friday, David, my friend Jeff, well, he became my friend Jeffrey. Um, this lady named Sandy, who ended up becoming a friend of mine also. We all went to this restaurant that had just opened. It had been open, I think, maybe 6 months, called Odd Duck. And I remember sitting there eating dinner. The place was packed. It's Friday night. And I remember thinking, oh, holy shit, this food is really good. And this could be in San Francisco. Like, there's some serious chefs here. Went outside and smoking a cigarette. And here's this woman who I thought was the hostess, and some dude who I thought was just a line cook. It turns out was Ross and Melissa, owners of the restaurant. He's the executive chef. She's the general manager. And so I just asked him, I was like, what's the food scene like here? Do people appreciate good food? With a chef from San Francisco. And they're like, oh, totally. Had nothing but nice things to say about it. So I come back inside, I sit down, and Sandy's like, you just need to move here and open a pop-up restaurant. And I was like, Sandy, you don't need that last glass of wine because I have no money. What are you talking about? And lo and behold, I stayed in Milwaukee. And a year later, I started on Melinda as a pop-up restaurant at the National Cafe. And then a year later, we opened at 315 East Wisconsin, where we've been for the last 10 years. And so I have to give a lot of credit to my ex business partner and ex husband, Ori Leon, because he was really the energy behind actually this project coming to fruition. Because I'd be like, I have no money to open a restaurant. Because he'd be like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to open a restaurant. And so he'd be like, let's do it. And I'm like, with what money? Like, I have no money. And he really, like, that guy busted his butt to get that place open. He did a great job. So shout out to Ori.
Uh,
He was a dreamer, full of energy. Anything is possible. Because like the day we found the location we are now. So we had done the pop-up for a year. We did it. The first three were at like different locations. And then I had reached out to my friend Lori, who writes for one of the local food magazines here. And I said, hey, I want to do a regular pop-up. I need a place that serves dinner. Who do you think would be open to this? I'm like, and at this point, nobody really knew me. Like I'd done a couple of food events, but who is this guy? You know what I mean? So I remember she saying, go talk to Nell Benton at the National. And I remember I'd met her at an event, but like in passing, and she had, I don't even remember what it was that we made for the event. And so I remember sending her an email and thinking, okay, it's going to take weeks before I hear back for her, like within an hour. And she's like, come by today, we'll talk. So I'm by and I kind of explained to her what I wanted to do. This is the concept, blah, blah, blah. I figured she'd be like, okay, come cook for me. She's like, you can start this Saturday. So Nell Benton, I call her, I'm Melinda's godmother. So we did this pop up for about a year and it became very popular. We got reviewed by the local food critic. And although she didn't give us any stars because we didn't have our own location, she did say in her review that when she has friends coming into Milwaukee, this is the kind of place she tells them to go eat at. And so we got a lot of exposure. I a quick story. We only had 30 spots, and people had to reserve them. Like we didn't take any walk-ins. And this lady named Carol Peterson would always call late, like late on a Friday, trying to get in. And be like, "Sorry, Carol, we're full." And this happened like 6 or 7 times. She started to get really pissed. And the last time she called, we're like, "Sorry, you have to call earlier." And she's like, "I'm showing up with my own table and chairs." And we're like, okay, well, we're not gonna let you do that. And so we found her some room. She ended up coming in, and then we actually ended up having a pop up at her house because she liked it so much. So we did that pop up for a year, trying to save money, but we made enough to pay our bills. We needed money to live off of. We weren't really saving enough to open a restaurant. And so I remember, Nell was going to do something at night. So our time at the National was over. And so Ori was like, well, so and so have that location downtown. They said we could use it for pop ups. And I was like, I'm just going to go find a job someplace else. I'm like, I'm just going to get a full time job, go work for somebody. We need some steady income. And he's like, you hate working for other people. And I'm like, I get it. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do in life to get by. So he's like, let's just go look at their space. So we got on the bus and got off on Wisconsin and Milwaukee. And downtown was not at the time was not really a destination place for restaurants, especially Wisconsin Avenue. And we got off on the corner and we're walking down Wisconsin Avenue and or he's like, oh look, that's a vacant restaurant that has a hood. And I was like, I hate downtown. Like literally was the first thing out of my mouth. So he takes the number down because we wanted to find a place that ideally had already been a restaurant or had a hood. Because if it already had that, there was less money we were gonna have to spend. So he, behind my back, called, made an appointment to go see the space. We're walking around. I was like, this place is a shithole. I hate it. Like, I hate it. Like, I was like, I'm not opening downtown. And he's like, you need to just look past it. And I was like, well, my brain doesn't work that way. And he set up an appointment to sign the lease. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, and so we signed the lease and we continued the pop up for a couple more months and then we shut it down. And then 6 months later, we opened where we are now. Um, Pro tip, if anybody's ever thinking about opening a restaurant, I highly suggest you do a pop-up for at least 6 months beforehand because it will be very helpful for a lot of reasons. You get a chance to test out what you're doing, see if the dining community likes what you're doing. But also, when you open a restaurant, part of the struggle is unless you're very well known, part of the struggle is getting people to come there and to know where you are
mhm.
and to trust you. Um, Having done a pop-up for a year and gotten so much press, there were people waiting at the door when we opened. And not only that, it was a community effort to open that restaurant. Like the amount of people that helped us, like sanded tables and chairs, tiled walls for us, like people that we met through the pop-up, like just regular people. So that restaurant is a labor of love. And so I always feel like we have to do the best job we can there because we have to honor the work all these people put into it.
I love that. I absolutely love it. I do want to also talk about kind of the downtown Milwaukee scene
Yeah,
because I think it has changed quite
it
a bit,
has. It
especially with
has.
kind of, well, maybe not this year with the Bucks, but I know the
Yeah,
Milwaukee, but I really do think because I went
it
to a
has.
game with my family and it's a completely different
Yeah,
scene than
it
what I
is.
remember
Yeah.
like 5 years ago, even.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many restaurants down there and it's cleaned up and it's you've got the arena, all these hotels. We're lucky enough that we're far enough from the arena where we don't have to deal with any craziness like when it's super busy down there, but close enough that people can walk there. And then we're also, I think there's like 7 hotels right around us. So we're in a pretty sweet spot. But to this day, we still have people come in and they're like, A, it's my first time here, which always surprises me. And B, they're like, we didn't know you were here. Like I walk by this place every day and I didn't know it was a restaurant. So I kind of like that we've developed that little bit of like, you kind of have to look for us to find us, but you kind of know where we are already, such a situation. But yeah, I love, now I love downtown and the more restaurants that open downtown, the better. Um, one of the gentlemen here has a restaurant and he was getting ready to open the second one on the same block we are, but like right around the corner. And before news broke, he called me, and he's a good friend of mine. And in fact, he started his original restaurant at Amelinda as a pop-up. And so he called, we're talking. He says, "Well, I just wanted to share some news with you before you read it in the newspaper. I'm about to open a new place." And I was like, "Awesome." I'm like, "How can I help? What do you need?" And he says, "Well, I'm opening right around the corner from you by the bookstore, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh my God, even better." I'm like, "This will be great. We can smoke
Mhm.
cigarettes in the alley together." And he's like, "You're not mad?" And I'm like, "Well, why would I be mad?" I'm like, "Is it Spanish or Portuguese inspired?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, then why would I be mad?" And I am of the mindset like the more restaurants that open downtown, the better it is
Oh
for
yeah,
everybody.
absolutely. Yeah,
And I he's my friend. I want my friend to succeed and be happy and make money. So why would I be mad?
absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, inspiration breeds inspiration. Like, and like
Absolutely.
it, you know what I mean? Like, that's why would you not want, more inspiration and
And
authentic
also
cooking?
restaurants have really great caliber because then that keeps us on our toes. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
keeps us always pushing the envelope and trying to be better.
yeah. No, that's cool. So like I said, I just remember because, like I said, my dad was born just north of Milwaukee, and I remember going there as a kid, and he'd be like, "Do not go to downtown Milwaukee. Like,
Well,
you don't want to do that." Like, it
my
was.
understanding is at one point it was pretty sketchy, but I think that happens in a lot of downtowns in the US.
But all right, well, are you ready to have some fun and test
I'm
your brain
ready.
cells? Well, we've already had fun, but we're
Yeah.
gonna have
And I
even
don't
some
have
more
my
fun.
phone with me, so I won't be Googling anything, I
All right,
promise.
yeah, no cheating.
No
All
cheating.
right, we've got Stump the Smith. Question number one. Although Wisconsin is known as America's Dairyland, which state actually produces the most cow's milk by volume?
California.
Correct. You've got it. I can't stump you. All right, we're testing your Spanish now.
Okay.
Which Spanish province did paella originate from?
Um, I know the city. I don't know what the province is. Is it Valencia?
It is.
Okay.
Gosh, you're too good. All right, we got one more.
Okay.
W- What is the main difference between a julienne and a bâtonnet cut?
Ooh, is it the width, how big they are?
It
Is it?
is.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
you're too good. So we will
Well,
do one more because,
okay.
like I said, I did a one with Chef Carlos Anthony, and I stumped him on this. And you might not know it, but
Is this the
what
same
are the?
question?
It's the same question that I stumped him
Okay.
on.
Uh,
What are the five mother sauces in French cuisine?
um, um, yeah, man. I mean, there's one that sounds like Spanish, but I could never pronounce it Espanol or something like that, correct? Okay. Um, Bechamel.
Yep.
Okay. Um, I want to say, um, what is it called? It's the one that they eat with eggs on Sunday at brunch, and they
Yeah.
make, yeah, that
Eggs
one.
Benedict.
And it's Benedict. So was it with Bernaise? No, Bernaise is when you make it with tarragon in it for a steak. Oh fuck, what is it called? I'll get back to that one. And there's two more. There's one made, I think, with crawfish. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna just be pulling stuff out of my ear here at this point.
Well, you're doing just fine. So we'll go back to the eggs Benedict. It starts with an
Okay.
H.
Hollandaise. There we go.
Yep,
You
there
can
you
tell you
go.
can tell I haven't cooked brunch in years. Hollandaise. So that leaves the other two. Fuck, what are the other two? I think one is got crawfish, I think. Uh, what are the other two?
I think you're thinking of it might be. I'll just help you out. Is it is it just sauce tomat?
Perhaps, sure. It's because it's made with tomato.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what's the other one?
Oh, did you say I can't pronounce that. That's a very hard word to say. Velouté?
Oh,
Did you say that?
velouté. No, I didn't say that one. I said the Spanish one, which I think has beef broth in it.
Okay. Well, well, I stumped you.
You did. You got one.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. It's just so much fun. I also just wanted to mention I'm actually working on a collection of recipes
Oh,
paired with
cool.
poetry.
Okay.
They're not authentic recipes because I'm not making them, but um I literally have like it's called so much going on. Salted
Mhm.
Words and Broken Bread Recipes from Rooms of Memory.
I love this.
And I have a Americas and the Caribbean room, I have a Europe room, I have an African room, an Asian Pacific room, and I just collect recipes and
You're
pair it
not gonna
with
you're not gonna ask me for some poetry. I can give you a recipe, but not poetry.
oh, I've got the poetry down. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Yeah, I got some
But yeah,
recipes I'll share with you.
that would be great for my Western European room because I did have a paella recipe, but I would definitely love
Do you have
any,
anything for Portugal?
I do not have anything for Portugal, so that would be
I got you.
amazing.
I got you.
That would be incredible. It's just kind of fun to, I just love cooking. I'm not a professional chef by any stretch of the imagination, but I just love exploring and, just having fun in the kitchen. That's what cooking's all about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's cooking at home. I'm sure you know this. It's different than cooking in a restaurant. So if it's something my life advice to anybody out there, if there's something that you really love doing as a hobby, don't do it as a job because you'll lose that love for it because it just kind of shifts.
Hmm.
I mean, I go in there and every day and I still think, even when the place is on fire, I still think, oh, this is a pretty fun job. But the level of fun is different than like somebody who's doing it at home.
Right.
But I love hearing that people still cook at home because I think everybody should still cook at home.
But so yeah, so let's shift gears and talk about, excuse me, where you want
Yeah.
Amalinda to be in the future.
Hmm. So it's funny because I was just having a conversation with a friend today over breakfast. I think one of the most common mistakes I feel like I've seen is you get these little restaurants like Amelinda. They're independently owned. They get a lot of press. They become very popular. And all of a sudden, the owner's moving it to a different location or expanding or opening a second. None of that will ever happen at Amelinda. I will never open a second restaurant as long as this place is still going. I will never expand and take over the space next door, and I'm never going to move it because you always lose something. So for the future, Melinda keeps putting out fantastic food. We keep helping others in the community start their own businesses in food, whether it's a restaurant or it's a bakery or it's a delivery or whatever. We'd like to continue to do that and provide a safe space for anybody and everybody who walks through that door. We celebrate our 10th year anniversary this summer, and leading up to it, everybody kept asking me what I thought my legacy should be. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm only 55. So I don't know if I like you using that word because it sounds like I'm about to retire, which is not the case. But like the measure of success for us, what do I think is, the measure of success for Melinda? And I feel like one of our markers is being able to look at the Milwaukee food scene and see so many people who have come through our kitchen and worked with me and then gone on to do great things or are holding positions in other really fantastic restaurants. I'm very proud of all those people who have come to Melinda, have worked with us, and then have gone on to do their own thing. We want to continue to do that. There's a cookbook in the works. I hope it'll be ready to be published by next summer. Um, I'm being hopeful. Everybody who works in the literary world tells me that I'm dreaming, but I have faith. What else? There's a documentary coming out soon.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, there's a documentary coming out soon. It's produced by a company called Todos Media out of Portland, Oregon. And I don't have a lot of info on that. I know it's done. I've seen the first minute of it. It looks incredible. They're trying to sell it to some online streaming platform. So as soon as I know that, it'll be posted all over my social media. I don't know. I dream about maybe opening another place in Portugal, but I think that's more of a dream than anything else. I really love being in the restaurant and cooking and touching the food. And so I doubt I will embark on any projects that are going to take me away from doing that, uh, for an extended period of time. I've also come to realize that the restaurant and I are now one. We have the same identity. And so I learned early on after we opened that I can't really tell people I'm going to be out of town. Because if I post something about being out of town, people will call and change their reservations to make sure I'm there, which is very flattering. But I'm like, no, we still need to make money even if I'm not here. You know what I mean? So as long as I'm willing to continue to keep their doors open, pay the staff, provide a platform for other people, and put out some incredible food, we'll be here.
Well, that is it's so neat. I can't thank you enough for your time and what you do for the Milwaukee food scene because I think Milwaukee is kind of up and coming and it's been kind of I don't know, like when you think of food, you don't necessarily think of Milwaukee. I mean, do you
Eh,
disagree?
No, 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 not at all.
Understandably.
Milwaukee is a hidden gem. I was quite surprised by how amazing like it's not. I would have never thought of it. Like if you would have asked me 6 months before I came to visit Milwaukee if I was going to end up in Milwaukee up in a restaurant, I was like, I don't know how to fry cheese, so sorry. Um, and yeah, no, for the size of the city and for its location, we have some very, very talented chefs. I'm very proud to be part of that community. But we want people to know it, but we don't want people to know it because we don't want it to become more expensive, and we want it to lose that Midwestern nice it has.
Absolutely. Well, do you have any, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to talk about? Any maybe foundations or projects that you want to support? Because I would love to plug them in
Um,
when I publish this.
That's awesome. I would say, Vivint Health, which is a great local organization that provides HIV and AIDS care to the community. They're a great one to give to. Let me think about this. Food for Health is one that I just got involved with. They are a home delivery meal company, and they tailor the meals to your specific dietary restriction. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I don't like olives. I'm talking about like I'm a diabetic and my food needs to help me control my diabetes. They do such a great job that my understanding is sometimes people are able to get off their medication because they're able to control their diabetes or whatever through food. So we just got involved with them, love what they're doing. And then I have a soft spot for dogs. So if you want to give some money to a dog rescue, the Oolong Daschund Rescue here in Wisconsin does a fantastic job. They had Cody. They brought him into my life. So I love those guys. You know, um, yeah, final thoughts. I think that people just need to remember before they get into this business, don't do it because you want to be rich or famous, because you will be disappointed. Um, Very few of us are rich and very few of us are famous. So do it because you love food and you like to feed people.
What a gift to sit down with Chef Gregory Leon and hear how memory, migration, and flavor come together in his kitchen. His story reminds us that food is never just food, it's heritage, resilience, and love served on a plate. If this conversation resonates with you, share it with a friend, leave me a note, or support my podcast with a cup of coffee. The link is below. Every dollar matters. Until next time, may you carry Gregory's reminder that every dish is a story worth telling. This has been Stream of Consciousness with Dan. Thank you for listening.